In 2023, over 7 million households in the UK owned an indoor fish tank, and over 6 million maintained an outdoor pond. However, a large majority of these households don't know how to properly care for them. But why is this a problem? After all, they're just fish, right?
Betta fish are born in huge, unethical breeding operations in Southeast Asia, before being ripped from the tanks and stuck in an airtight plastic bag with not much water. They are then tossed onto a plane before ending off the long-haul flight with a bumpy truck journey. They then arrive at a strange place with lots of noise and bright lights. They are emptied into a small plastic cup with barely enough water to move in. Here they will stay until they die, or are lucky enough to be chosen by an experienced fish keeper. Alternatively, a well-meaning parent could snatch them up as a present for their child, along with a tiny tank, plastic gravel, and artificial plants. It's an upgrade from the cup, of course, but they then spend the rest of their life unable to inhale fully because of the lack of oxygen in the tank. They are always too hot or too cold because of the cheap, low-quality heater, and their scales are sore and dull because of the lack of nutrients.
So now you have an idea of what these fish go through, you might want to see what a proper tank setup looks like.
An appropriate tank for most fish should be filled with live plants, have healthy, thick substrate such as gravel or sand, and some enrichment for the fish like rocks, tunnels, or hides. For betta fish, which are one of the most commonly undercared for fish, there should be a high-quality filter and heater, with large leaves or even a better hammock that they can rest on. There should be no fake plants, as these have sharp edges and can damage the betta's flowing tails.
I'm by no means an expert, so I'm going to TNT Aquatics in Yeovil to try and get some more information about some questions I have.
Hello guys, I'm Tim from TNT Aquatics and you're joining me here in my fish room.
So Tim, what do you think are some of the main mistakes that amateur fish keepers make when they're first starting out?
So I'm going to say the biggest mistake is rushing. People buy the tank, fill it with water, leave it a couple of days, then add fish. But what you don't realise is that the tank has to be cycled. Fish produce ammonia, which is toxic, and in the new tank there is no beneficial bacteria. In a tank you have filters, so as you can see I've got two filters here, that's a new one and that's our mature filter. So that will break down the ammonia, turn it into nitrite, and then nitrate, which is then unharmful for fish in low dosages.
What would you recommend for first fish tank keepers, cold water or tropical?
So honestly, I'm going to say tropical. Most people assume that cold water fish are easier, especially goldfish, but actually they're a lot harder long term. Tropical tanks are more stable. The heater keeps the temperature consistent. With cold, if you've got it in a room with no temperature, like no heater, then your tank is going to fluctuate just like your heater does in a house.
What do you think the minimum space of betta is, and why do you think people underestimate it?
So this one does wind me up a little bit. The minimum I would recommend for a betta is 20 litres, heated and filtered. People underestimate them because they're sold in cups, or to be fair, you see them in little containers like this. The reason for this is they will fight with other fish. So these tanks get water changed daily with our automatic water change, so they're never in polluted water, so that's how I can keep them in little tubs like this. But like I said, they need to be in a 20 litre tank minimum when they go to their forever home. Bettas are very intelligent, interactive, and they need a warm, stable water around 25 to 27 degrees.
Unfortunately, when fish tanks are rarely represented in film and TV, they're often presented as poorly set up and maintained, and they often have no research or effort put into them. Unfortunately, this perpetuates a low standard of fish care, and people think that they can just set up a fish tank and call it a day.
First, we can look at Greg Heffley's fish tank in Diary of a Wimpy Kid. This tank houses far too many goldfish for its size, causing overcrowding, which leads to stress, low oxygen, aggression, and eventually fish murder. Goldfish can grow up to 12 inches, and therefore the tank is just incredibly too small for them. They most likely won't live long enough to grow to that size anyway. There's no stimulation or enrichment for the fish, and nowhere for them to hide. From this short clip, we can see that glass swimming behaviour is present. This occurs when fish are bored or stressed. There's no natural substrate, instead there's just colourful gravel, which looks nice, if you like that kind of thing, but provides no nutrients for the plants, which are the one positive of this tank.
P. Diddy, grab my glass.
Wake up! Wake up!
Although this tank was deliberately designed to highlight the inexperience of its owner, I still want to point out the issues with the tank in Finding Nemo. the most prominent being the wildly inappropriate mix of species, meaning lovable Nemo would have been eaten immediately. The tank is not large enough to house all of these species, and wouldn't even accommodate some of these species on their own. The yellow tang needs at least an 118-gallon tank, with the dentist tank being only 90 gallons. The intriguing Moorish idol needs far more, at least 240 gallons. This means the tank is over 150 gallons too small for this one fish alone, so with all of these fish in the same tank, he'd need at least 400 gallons for them to live semi-comfortably. In the tank itself, there are no live plants, meaning a lack of oxygen and nutrients, no natural substrate, and overall a very unnatural environment that would be extremely stressful for the fish. The moving decorations, such as the opening and closing treasure chest, can be extremely dangerous, as small fish like Nemo will get stuck and potentially die. The filter would be a great thing, however, there's no media inside it. This means there is no sponge or ceramic material which process the bacteria in the tank and filter it out, so the filter isn't actually doing anything.
If you don't have a cycled filter, then your fish are basically swimming in poison.
So we can see why this is an issue, especially because both of these movies' target demographics were children and young adults. If a child watches one of these films and begs their parents to get them a fish tank like the one they've seen in Finding Nemo, problems begin to emerge. Fish aren't just ornaments. They're not just something there to have in your bedroom and look pretty. While they're gorgeous and it's a lovely hobby to get into, you need to make sure you're doing the correct research before you commit.
Fish aren't meant to be in a box, kid. It does things to you.